Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profit Show. My name is Jim Landers and I'm so thrilled that you're here. My mission is simple. I help portrait photographers just like you create an environment where you can do the things that you love, create the dreams that you have. Each week on the Portrait Profit Show, you get tips and systems on the business side of photography designed to help you gain a mastery over marketing and sales, reducing the stress that most photographers face so you can finally get what you deserve. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Portrait Profit Show. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. Now, for Digital Pro Lab, I want you to go to digitalprolab.com because they are fantastic. I mean, you've got Amanda and her team working hard because they love what they do in order to make you look like a hero. And of course, me, Landers Photography School at landersphotoschool.com, where I help photographers do what they love and make things happen, create a life for themselves that they've only dreamed of. Thank you for being here today. Before I move into today's subject, I've got a couple of housekeeping things. I'm going to put the something going across the screen right now. We use a platform called StreamYard to allow us to simulcast this show to multiple different places. We're on 5 different Facebook groups, 2 different YouTube channels, and a LinkedIn page. But we can't see your name because of this unless you take one small step. And you don't have to do this because you might want to remain anonymous. But if you don't mind, go to the address you see on the screen, streamyard.com/Facebook. Now, that link is in the post. So you could just go to the post, click on more because the post is long, go down and click on it, and you're giving StreamYard permission to use your name. That way I see it. Otherwise, it says something like YouTube user or Facebook user, and that's fine too. But I'd sure like to see your name. All right. No, I want each one of you to go over to the comments right now and enter in hashtag live. Hashtag live. That tells me that you're watching right now. Hashtag live. And by the way, if you're watching this as a replay, do me a favor and enter in hashtag replay. But for those who are here now, hashtag live. Now, throughout today's presentation, throughout today's show, I want you to do me a favor. Comment that you're thankful that our guests are here, our panelists. Say something like, good to see you, Aaron, or thanks, Deborah, or Nick, you rock, whatever it is. Those are our panelists today, by the way. Whatever it is you want to say, acknowledge them. They've taken time out of their busy day to share with you. So give them a little bit, just a little boost. I'm not asking for a lot. They're giving you an hour and a half of their time. All I'm asking is a quick message of thanks to them. All right. So I'm going to bring them on the show, on the screen here in just a moment. But before I do, I want you to click that share button on your screen down at the bottom below where the screen, the picture is. You see like and comment and share. Click on that share button. Let other people know about the Portrait Profit Show. All right. Now you've clicked that share button for me and you let me know that you're here. Oh, and I guess I should acknowledge some of you guys. Hey, John, I'm glad you're here. I guess you're back from your travels. That's good. Good to. I've been watching you on Facebook, by the way. And Mari or Mary, I'm not sure how I say that. I'll find out though. And Stacia and Dave and Robin and Natalie and man, a whole bunch of you guys. Oh, and a whole bunch of Facebook users and YouTube users. All right, I am thrilled that you guys are here right now. But right now, I want to bring on our panelists to say hi real quick, and then we're going to get into the questions. And so let's bring on our panelists, all of them here at the same time. Hey, Aaron, Deborah, and Nick, how you guys doing?
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
We are so thrilled that you guys have taken time out of your busy days. We know that you're busy because we know that we're busy. And so you're taking time out of your day just says, you know what, I care about the photographers, the photographer community, and I want to share in that. I want to help build that up. And so for taking your time and giving of yourself, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
All right, so I'm going to bring you guys on one at a time to share a little bit about yourselves before I go into the questions. And let's see, the first one is going to be, who am I going to bring on first? I'm going to have Deborah on first. All right. Of course, right, Deborah?
Of course.
Come back to you, Aaron and Nick here in just a second.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on.
You are
I
on.
am
How are you doing,
on.
Deborah?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We're yeah, I'm, happy to be here and happy to help out and share my insights
Oh,
and
I'm
my
so glad to hear that. Can you
experiences.
tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I am Deborah Van Tellingen. I live in a town about 30 miles north of San Antonio in a little town called Spring Branch. Um, I've moved a lot, so I have to think about where I live now, but it's Spring Branch. I have a small little home studio and I specialize in boudoir photography, wedding photography, and engagements, portraits, things like that. And I recently developed a love for maternity photography, and I think that uh, stems from my love for boudoir photography. It kind of is that one extra level. So I like to consider myself really a relationship photographer. And if you're a boudoir photographer, you photograph the relationship with yourself, basically. So that's what I've done, and that's what I'll hopefully continue to do. I love to shoot weddings. People think I'm crazy, but I love those moments that you cannot capture any other time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting. I like your
Yeah.
perspective, and I can't wait to hear more of it. All right, so I'm going to bring on Erin next to tell us a little bit about her. Thank you, Deborah. Erin,
Hello.
how's it going this evening?
It's going. We're getting through it.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah. I grew up in shirts. I was kind of a military brat, but landed in shirts and stayed for a boy, which worked out. We ended up married, and then both of us were active duty military and stationed overseas for a while. And after I started having my kiddos, I got out of the military and I fell in love with photographing my daughter. And then I had a pregnant friend who agreed to let me photograph every bit of her pregnancy and newborn pictures. And then she had a pregnant friend who had a pregnant friend. And it all just opened up and snowballed for me. So I specialize in newborns, maternity, and milestone photography. I don't really do much else. I just love the babies and the baby bumps and getting to play with everybody else's babies and not have any more of my own babies, and just love people's babies and give them back at the end of the day. It's pretty amazing, and I wouldn't trade it and I wouldn't change it. And I'm about to start my 11th year doing this, so it's pretty awesome.
11 years.
11
Loving
years.
on other people's babies.
Babies and baby bumps. Yep.
I've been enjoying seeing your work. It's always
Thank
beautiful,
you.
and it seems like you always get 100, 200, 1,000 loves on it every single time, and it's so well deserved.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for being here, Erin. I'm going to bring on Nick next.
Hello.
Nick, how's it going this evening?
Hi, Jim.
I'm so glad that you're here and that you're able to take time to do this. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Well, I was a tattoo artist for a couple of decades, and that was great. Loved it. Traveled around the state, traveled quite a bit. And as I did that, I would take photos of my finished work, and it slowly led into more of a hobby. And I started really leaning towards photography more. And a friend of mine, his daughter was getting married and liked the work that I was producing. And he was actually a retired photographer. And I did his daughter's wedding event, and it was amazing, and became an event photographer and have been doing it ever since. That led to more weddings, more events, quinceañeras, anniversary parties, just everything, celebration. And so now I'm actually fond of saying every time I go to work, it's a party because it really is. It's amazing. I love doing it. I love the interactions with people. I love seeing the families come together. and I get probably emotionally involved with that and do the best I can to capture all the memories I can for all of those individuals. It's amazing.
I love it.
It's
From
awesome.
a tattoo artist to
Yeah.
a photographer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of different combinations of some other interest to photography. I see it all the time, of course, but tattoo artists to photographers, that's actually, I haven't seen that one very often. I think I've only seen it once prior to you,
It's
Nick.
interesting.
Now I see a lot of medical field to photography lately. So nurses turning to photography. I've seen that a lot. I'd say that's the number one. Number two, probably teachers going from teaching to photography.
You know, the light's the most interesting part, because taking a photo of a finished tattoo, it's shiny. And it led to me being so frustrated by not understanding how to control the light, that the more I started learning about the light, it was like the perfect way in from there, how to control it to take a good photo.
Yeah. I can imagine that. I can see that. So I want you to ask the first, or I'm going to ask the first question of you, Nick. And let me bring it up on my screen so I can see it. There we go. So the first, and I'm going to bring it up on you guys' screen too, so you can see what I'm going to be asking them. Let's put that up on the screen. So the first question is, if you came across a prospect that is not in your target market, how do you communicate that to them?
I honestly, I tell them. I stick to what I know to do, and I branch out, of course. But if I haven't, how can I put it? If I haven't taken a foray into a certain field, into a certain direction, and this is an actual client that has contacted me about what I'm going to do, I don't typically do it. A family member or something, of course, I'm going to work with, and they want me to do it, and that'll be a great learning experience for me. But professionally, it was the same in my previous career. I won't go into a direction that I know that I'm not going to be able to provide the best opportunity for a client. I think it can be damaging, possibly, and so I tend to stay away from it. And I know if I do know someone who does that work, then of course I'll offer a referral and see if we can get them to the right person. That's pretty much it.
Sorry to leave you hanging.
No worries.
So yeah, and that makes sense. You know, and coming in from a different point of view, you know, having worked in a business where it's similar in that respect, and there's things that you do and things that you don't, and it's not a matter of you don't think it's right. It's just a matter of you know that you're the best at some things, and someone else is the best at other things. And so you are applying what you've done for, you know, 2 decades in the tattoo industry. You're applying that same thing that you learned here. And I think that's a good way to go.
Definitely helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for that answer, Nick. I appreciate it.
You.
I'm going to ask that same question now of, let's see. I'm going to ask Deborah that same question. All right, Deborah.
Yeah.
You probably heard that question, but just in case, if you come across a prospect that's not part of your target market, how do you communicate that with them?
Well, in the beginning, when I first started professionally shooting 8 years ago, I photographed everything that came my way. And as I've gotten older and more experienced, I've become more discerning. And luckily, I haven't had that issue come up much because I'm pretty focused. But when it does, I will tell them right away that either I don't do that sort of photography or I'm not a good fit for them. And if I know somebody, I'll try to refer them, and so that they can find someone that's better suited for them, and so they can get the better outcome. Because if my heart is not into it, then the end result is not going to be what I want or they want. So that's pretty simple.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
So some people's philosophy
Mhm.
is, why would you turn away business? I
Mhm.
mean, it's effectively someone saying,
Right.
I've got money and I want to spend it with you. Why would you say no to that?
Yeah, that's very valid. And, but for me, I'm at a point in my life that I just don't want to put the energy into that, because when I declined that job, I know that another job is right behind it that's a better fit for me. And this actually happens all the time. And it happened, and it so I have that faith, and that's going to happen. So I
Yeah,
don't worry, and it'll be a better client in the long run for me.
that's right. I
Yeah,
totally agree with that.
yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you, Deborah. I'm going to ask the
yeah,
same
you're welcome.
question now
Sure.
of Erin. So take her off and add Erin in. So, Erin, I'm sure you have come across people who aren't part of your target market, or a prospect that's not asking for something that you want to do or choose to do. How do you communicate that to them?
A frequent request I get is in-home lifestyle newborn sessions, and I do not shoot those. I shoot studio with very posed and with lighting. So my biggest goal when somebody books a session with me is they walk away with images that they wanted, right? So if somebody asked me to come shoot an in-home lifestyle, I cannot give them that Pinterest style. I've never taken training, I've never taken classes. So I always communicate with clients, like, I want to see what your vision is, and if I can achieve that, I'm going to do that for you. But at the end of the day, I don't want to take on a client just for the money, because they're going to get mediocre images because it's not something I'm trained to do. And then they're going to tell their friends about their mediocre images, which is going to come back, and it's not going to be very positive business light for myself. So I am all about my vision and my client's vision lining up. And if I can't produce that, there's no reason why they should take something mediocre when they deserve something grand. So I have plenty of friends in the photography community here who shoot plenty of different styles, and I'm more than happy to float business their way to make sure that they're getting business, and then the client is also getting exactly what they have their heart set on. So everybody wins.
I like that philosophy. You guys all have the same philosophy on that one. What do you feel, though, about those who say, come on, I need the income. I have to take on every single job that I can get my hands on because I'm having trouble paying my bills?
Right. And I understand that. And after 11 years of doing this, I have a strong opinion on that. And I know a lot of people won't agree with me. Strong opinions, people don't like those. But I feel like when you say you shoot everything and you'll take the dollar to do everything, it is such a huge disservice to your client, and it's a huge disservice to you and your business name. I don't think anybody could master everything. I just don't. Like, me with newborns, if I tried to branch into weddings, I'm not going to be able to master it the way I have with newborns. It's going to take me years to develop that. So I really feel like once you're in a niche and you have developed it, you have educated yourself, and you have perfected it, that's your niche. And it's very hard. It's very hard to say I'm an event photographer, because that's a whole separate beast with lighting and a second shooter and everything else. That's just I'm definitely a stay in your lane, perfect what you know, and grow your business.
I agree with all that.
Strong
It is
opinion.
one of those difficult things because I understand the point of view. I understand where they're coming from, because I've been there. And at first, when I started, I didn't niche down or niche down. I say niche, but a lot of people say niche. I did not do that at first. I didn't take on every single job that someone asked, because there were some things I just didn't want to do. But I took on a lot of things, and there's pros and cons to everything that you choose to do. I mean, there is an advantage to, taking on those jobs so that you can learn on the job. You're not having to pay for the education, but
Sure.
money, like you mentioned, is what it comes down to. Why are you taking their money? their hard-earned money. Well, they told me that they wanted to pay me. I hear you, but you're the one who's supposed to be the pro. You're the one
Right.
who's supposed to give them the best. And if you haven't done it before, if you do it incredibly rarely, and you know there's other people who are doing it well, are you really a pro if you just take on everything? Because I'm thinking the pro and the person who cares wants the best for their client with a
Yes.
period at the end of that statement.
Yes.
And money just means, in some instances, I need more. And
Yep.
I understand we all need more. We all need that. There's no doubt there.
Yes.
But there's that that ethical side, that professional side that says, give my clients the best, even when that is not me.
Absolutely. Well, word of mouth in this industry is huge, and it takes taking one bad job, producing one bad session, and them telling all of their friends about their experience with you is so damaging and so hard to come back from.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. I've got the next question for you, Erin.
Oh, great.
You ready for this one?
Okay.
All right. So without going into any detail, I want you to just tell me the steps in your client sales process from the beginning, the first time you get an opportunity to visit with them, all the way through the end. And it's just the tops, just the tips, not the details.
Right. So most of my business comes through Facebook or my website. And even though people have visited my website, I know very often they're not clicking the ever so important investment tab. So the most important portion for me is that my fees are completely transparent with the client. I don't want to get through my booking and think, this is it, I've got this client on my books. And then that dreaded question of, well, how much is this, has to come up. So the most important beginning part is, have you visited my website? Have you visited the investment tab? Are we all comfortable with the pricing and how this is going to work out? So that is my key point. And once we have validation on that, we draw up a contract, we select our dates, and then we go over expectations and some Pinterest boards. I want to see colors. I want to see what your visions are. And then we go through all the little details.
Nice. Now, when you are, do you do prints? Do you sell prints?
I do not do prints. I am an all-inclusive, so I charge just a smidgy bit higher, but I do full digital downloads, and I have digital packages based on the package that they're choosing. So it'll come with minimal digitals or full digitals, and then they get print release.
So they are choosing images, or all the images that you create that you like, you're sharing with them?
If they book a full package, they're going to get all the full. They don't see every image that I shoot. I'm culling down my best of the best, and then I go through and I whittle that down to the best of the best of the best, and then I fully edit. And if they have already booked the full digital package, then they're going to get their shoot proof link and have all of their images in there with the option to download everything. Or if they're booking a smaller package, they're going to have a bigger gallery, and then they'll go through and select the images that they like. And I try to have them fully edited when they select, so that way there's no hindering, like, oh, I don't know if I like how I look in this one, or my skin's not the best here. So there's no qualms. They can see everything. And after this many years, I have my editing down to a pretty quick process. So it's not more time consuming, and it works well.
And you said that you give them print rights?
I give print
release. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is there anything, is that just open to anything, or is that within a certain range?
Right. So they're going to get a print release of the image I delivered to them. So they're not allowed to put an Instagram filter over it. If they want any additional editing or altering done to the image, I'm completely open with them. Like, my goal is for them to have a finished product that they love. So if they're like, hey, I hate how this hair looks right here, can we touch that up? Absolutely. I will do that on my part, because this is still the art I've created for you. So we go over any additional edit details, but they have print release to print the image that I have fully edited for them, and they're not allowed to alter it. If they want a black and white, I will do a black and white conversion for them and add that into their gallery. So it does say in my print release that there's no alterations, no cropping. I'm happy to do all of those things for them to make sure that they're getting the product that they're wanting. But they can, they can print at Walgreens if they choose. but I do give them, I know it makes me go, oh, but I do give them lots of
Tell them to go to
great
Digital Pro
labs.
Lab.
Right, I do. I send that link all the time. I definitely give them great consumer labs that are the baby labs of pro labs. And I'm like, hey, these are some great labs if you're wanting to print quality pictures.
Good. Natalie has a question for you. I'll put it on the screen. How long do you usually do a turnaround for the editing?
I tell my clients at most 2 weeks, and I love doing previews. I love so much doing previews. So within 24 hours of my sessions, I usually have 5 or 6 fully edited previews on my Facebook and Instagram page, so they can really enjoy having that little like, oh, the pictures are finally here. And then typically 2 weeks or less for a full gallery. And if there's going to be anything longer than that, I communicate very clearly, so nobody's wondering where's my pictures and what's happening. And so definitely the previews, and then 2 weeks at very most.
Very good. Thank you for answering those follow-up questions too. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to ask that same question now of let's see, I'm going to ask Nick those questions. All right, Nick.
Yes.
I have a question for you, and you probably know what it is. But without going into any details yet, I might ask some follow-up questions, but without going into any details, give me the surface level view of your client sales process from the very beginning, the initial contact, to whatever your definition of the end of that of this process is.
Okay. Typically there's an inquiry, or the inquiry will come from usually at other events that we're already covering, or we'll get a referral, or somebody that has seen our work at SNL Photography. I didn't mention that earlier. And they will, we start the onboarding process through our CRM. And from that point, we set up a consultation. The onboarding process is basically, we refer them to our website. When the inquiry comes in, there'll be a form that's filled out, so we have an idea of what it is they want to get. We schedule the consultation, and typically we try to have that in person, because it seems to be because as event photographers, or really, I mean, yes, it's any photography, but I mean, the way we see it is that it's an incredibly personal situation with weddings, especially, or quinceañeras, and we want to know the full scope of what we're going to cover in order to put that package together, because every one of them is custom, so it takes time. After we have that consultation, we know exactly what we're looking at. We discuss prices at that point, so that way everything's on the table. And from that point forward, we keep an open conversation going with them. Anything that's going to be added along the way, because events are rapidly evolving as the planning is taking place. If there's a planner involved, it's even better, because there's going to be a solid direction that's going to be taking place, and we will try to keep in touch in that way with them, so that way we can have an idea of anything. If we can minimize the number of surprises that are going to take place in any event of that magnitude, we try to reduce that. So aside from that, that is it. That is the basic process up to the event. Once the event takes place, we gather, of course, all the photos. It can be, depending on what kind of event it is, a wedding can be thousands of photos. And I usually try and have that completed within a week of the day of the event date. So I usually deliver everything through Google Drive and everything. I mean, I call the photos, of course, but I tend to deliver quite a large amount of the coverage, because that's exactly what it is. It's coverage. And then that's pretty much it. It's digital downloads. We don't do prints. So
that's what I was going to ask next. Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. So, and everybody's process is different. And it's interesting to me. Some people will tell someone else that they don't think their process is right, or that, just different concerns that people have that they're sharing. Just like there's a lot of tools in a tool store, there's a lot of ways to get to done, to get to where you feel like you have given your clients what you feel in your heart that is appropriate for this particular type of job. And depending on the type of job, it does change. I mean, if someone just needs a quick headshot for their LinkedIn profile, you're not going to spend hours and hours on it. It's going to be a quick session. They're
Sure.
going to do the artwork that's necessary. I call it artwork, the retouching that's necessary. And you're going to get that image, because you don't need 15 or 100 of those. You need one.
Right.
And so you may give them a handful to look through, but then you choose the one that let them choose, and they choose the one they want. You do the fine tuning to it, and you send them that image ready to go so that they can use it for the purpose. And so we, as photographers, choose our path based on the end result, on the purpose of what they're trying to do. And so your process is based on your feeling on what's right for this particular type of job and the client that I serve.
Yes, and that's also along the way, especially through the editing process. When you're calling, a wedding event, it's a large scope, because people will have an idea of the things that they want to see in their photos, and of course I'm trying to capture everything as much as possible, and so it's a lot of times I leave a lot more photos in than I would probably really expect myself to do. I find that surprising sometimes that I do it, and then I find even more surprising is that a photo that I left in that I almost didn't will be the #1 photo they love. So it's kind of fun, actually. It's really cool. I enjoyed it.
I've had that experience too. I mean, it's a quick story, so I'll tell it. But years ago, before digital, even if you've never, someone watching has never done film before, that it won't be a surprise to them. We had to print every single image, and so you'd wind up with this huge stack of photographs, and you'd go through them one at a time, and you'd take out the ones that you didn't want to show. And so during this process, you have 3 stacks, because you've got the main stack you start with, you've got the ones you're keeping, and you've got the rejects, 3 stacks. Well, normally you go through that in one sitting, and it's going to take you a little while, but you go through it in one sitting. But this particular time, I was unable to go through it in one sitting. I left it on my desk, those 3 stacks. I knew where I was. All I had to do was, I had another photo session. I went out and did the photo session. When I came back, I would just get right back to it. But in the meantime, someone called the office, and my wonderful secretary performed heroics, because she wanted to make sure they got that album, that proof album, because you had to do proof albums then, to get that out. So my secretary put all of the images back in order. I mean, it had to have been a really difficult thing to do. And then she put the album, the proof album together, and then they were able to come by and pick it up, all while I was gone. And like you said, one of the ones I had eliminated was their favorite.
Yeah, it happens more often than you think.
That story might imply that I think you should just leave them all in. It actually doesn't. I still think that we need to cull our work and only show our best stuff, because that worst one, if they are upset or something happens later, that's the one they're going to show as an example of your work.
Yeah.
So, but that's not my main reason. My main reason is, like Aaron mentioned just a moment ago, I care about them.
Yeah.
I want them to have only the best.
That's right.
So therefore, even if it has the potential that they're going to love it, if it's not representative of my work, I just don't feel I should be showing it. There are exceptions. There are times when it's a one-time thing, and maybe, I don't know, someone walked in front of the camera and there's, part of it's showing, but enough of it's showing where, that one image of her interacting with her grandma, who's not going to be around for much longer. Okay. Yes. I do leave it in that instance. That's right. So yeah, I have some things that I consider. And would you do exactly the same thing, or do you feel differently about it?
I do the same exact thing. It's that's part of the consultation, like we try and get I want to know things, get a shot list put together, in the time coming up. I want to know who's important, who's going to be there, who the older relatives are. We need to make sure they are in the photos, and those lists have to be followed. We want names though, not just who they are. It's like my aunt so-and-so. Full names, because we're gonna call them until we get them in front of the camera, Yeah, it's very thorough. But it's so worth it. It's a lot of energy, but
Love it.
it's so worth it. Yeah, it's really great. But yeah, you keep those photos in and you get them delivered, and the appreciation. I mean, people cry. I mean, they cry when you deliver their photos to
Yeah.
them. They see them and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you got this." You know, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's right there in the
Isn't that
corner."
the best feeling?
Like, "Oh yeah, I was tracking you going across the dance floor to go see so and so and get that hug." Yeah, that's just part
Hmm.
of it. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, thank you for sharing all that, Nick. I
it was
appreciate it.
great.
All right. I'm going to ask that same question now of Deborah. So let's bring on Deborah. Deborah, what do you think about this? I don't want you to go into any details, specific details, but I want you to give me the surface level view of your client sales process. Just the tops, just the peaks of the mountains. What are your steps from that moment of initial conversation or consultation or whatever that initial thing is, all the way to whatever you define it as done?
So I've had a lot of time to think about it because I've been listening to everybody else. So I'll keep it short. Okay. So basically, what I do is from the initial point of contact, I try to get them on the phone. And I mean, because I'm old school that way. But if I can't get them on the phone, I'll send them a text, email. And then if I've gotten interest, I'll do a Zoom consultation because I think that I used to do in-person consultations, but I don't do them anymore. I do the Zooms. But I think that with boudoir and wedding, it's so important to have that personal connection. I mean, I'm just not going to show up at their wedding and they don't even know what I look like. All my weddings get a complimentary engagement portrait session because I want them to know me. I want I want to know them and in a more comfortable setting. So, but we talk about that in the consultation, and then we talk about the pricing. And they've usually by this time seen my packages. All my packages for the boudoir and wedding contain an album because I believe that they should have something printed, and I'm pretty passionate about that. So from that point, we'll start to plan. They've gotten the contract. I'll send them a prep guide. I've asked them to maybe upload some images to Pinterest, especially for the boudoir. We'll do a secret, I forgot, secret board is what we'll do, and just some ideas, and then we'll do the photo. Well, by that time, they've gotten a questionnaire as well. I want to know just some things, but particularly, yeah, with both those genres, I want they're different questionnaires, but I want to know about what they have in mind, especially for weddings, who we're going to shoot, what are the most important shots, um, all the detail stuff. But for boudoir, I want to know why you're doing the session. Are you doing it for somebody? Are you doing it for a special occasion? What do you want to look? And also include privacy options in those and sharing options in the questionnaire. So whether I can share the images or not, typically not. And then we do the session, and then I will edit and call the images, and then I upload them to gallery. Right now I'm using CloudSpot, and but I also use PhotoViz for my website, so I will use those galleries. But I like CloudSpot because they can order directly from their online gallery, and they use White House Custom Color, which is my preferred gallery for images, and we also use Miller's for my albums. But I create the albums myself. I don't let them create the albums. I like to do that, and they usually are very happy that I do the layout. And then they get and before I send the album to print, they'll get a proof, and I'll get the okay for the proof, and then it gets sent to the lab and gets shipped right to them. And if they order images, if they order anything else, it gets shipped to them. And that's pretty much the process. Kind of simple.
Well, you're taking their concerns into consideration. You're making
Mhm.
sure that they're happy and that you're communicating that they're part of that process.
Mhm.
So uh, it's simple because you know it and you believe it.
Yeah.
To someone who's starting out, they may think, man, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah. I can see that. I'm reading what I wrote down here. I'm just like, oh my God, I do all that? Yeah. But it's it doesn't happen in one day, of course. It happens over
Right.
time. And especially if you're dealing with a wedding, there may be times where it may be a few months or a few weeks that you don't even communicate with them, or you may
Yep.
just say, hey, how's it going? Just send them an email or a text. But yeah, it happens over time. So it happens more organically. So, yeah.
Well, I want to go back to when you're initially contacting
Yeah.
clients,
Yeah.
prospects. What methods of communication have you found work better for what you're trying to do?
Telephone. 9 times out of 10, if I get them on the phone, if I can speak to them, and I'm not talking about voicemail, people can ignore voicemails. If I can get them on the phone and I can start to have a personal connection with that person and we can talk, and I might just talk about stuff and things that they do. What do you do? What are your interests? Oh, you have a dog? Oh my God, I have 2 labs. Oh my God, I love my dogs. Oh, what kind of dog do you have? Or so we'll talk about those things and we'll develop that personal. And then it's like then I start to talk about their event. But if I get them on the phone, I almost can guarantee I'll get the job. If I cannot get them on the phone, it's so easy these days for people to ignore, to ghost, and I'll give them a few tries, but then yeah. So I'd say everybody doesn't want and my husband laughs at me, and it's true though, but I, it's hard for me to pick up the phone. That's not an easy thing for me, and I don't know why, but it's hard for me to call somebody. I get really nervous, but I do it, and when I do it, it works.
You know what? I wonder if that's a creative thing because I have that as well.
Yeah,
But I agree, it works.
yeah,
And so that's what causes you to go ahead and do it anyway, despite that
yeah.
feeling that you have inside of uncertainty or doubt or whatever it
Now,
is that
not everybody wants to
manifests.
do that. I know boudoir photographers that just they don't call. I mean, everything is through their CRM. Everything is it's like it's a hands-off approach. But and if it works for them, that's fine. But for me, it's so personal of a genre and
Yeah,
anything that we do. So that's what works for me.
yeah, that
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Deborah.
So yeah, you're
All right, I'm
welcome.
going to ask that same question of Aaron. All right, let's see. So, Aaron, can you tell me about when you're initially visiting with someone? There's lots of different ways to do that, but what have you found that works better for you and what you do?
Most of my communication with my clients is through my Facebook business page, email, Instagram, DMing. A lot of my clients are very young, since I'm dealing with brand new families and pregnant moms, and people in their early 20s are horrified of phone calls, just horrified. It's just not going to happen. And I really do get the best communication through just DMs and Facebook chatting. So we tend to stick there unless there's something very specific we need to get on the phone with each other for. Typically, we don't do phone conversations, and most people don't request them. I'll ask them, do you want to get on the phone? We can chat this over. And a lot of times there's a lot of pushback, or they've got little ones at home and they're not sure how they're going to manage a phone call with importance with a 2-year-old running around. So most of my chats back and forth are through my business page and Instagram, and then we'll exchange numbers and text message back and forth when needed. And most of my clients are booking when either they've just had a brand new newborn baby or they're ready to give birth any day. So I know things in their life are just chaos, and asking them to sit down and give me brain cells and formative thoughts are really tough at that time. So I try to give them the most pertinent information over the phone. And generally, when someone's calling to book a newborn session, they kind of know what they're booking at that point. So, yep, we just stick to Messenger. Every now and then a phone consult if I request it or they request it, but it's very, very rare with younger families and younger moms to get on the phone.
And that's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. You know, for what I do with family portraits, I always visit with someone. I start off on the phone, but then I require an in-person visit.
Mhm.
There's no one. I don't photograph anyone who I haven't been to their home and been with them in their environment. It's just
Right.
how I choose to do it. But for what you're doing, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. You're working with different people, a different target market, and the end result is different because I specialize in family portraits as home decor. So therefore, I need to see where in the home this is going to go so that I can create a custom piece for that space and for
Mhm.
that family. You're not doing the same thing that I'm doing, so
No.
therefore, it's makes sense that there'd be a different set of tools that are used in imply and that are employed here to make it happen. So, man,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Nick. So let's bring him on. All right, Nick.
Yeah.
Did you hear that question? When you're
I did.
initially contacting prospects or new clients, what are the methods of communication that you find for what you're trying to do that work better, and why?
Well, I think you guys pretty much covered it. I don't have much to add here. I don't think it's basically the same. The events are typically, I mean, young people, even if it's a quinceañera and the parents, you know, they're still young enough that it's mostly text, email. The initial inquiry will be email, and then from then on, as the events get planned out, we just get updates on through text, via text, and let us know what's going on. Every now and then there may be a need for a phone conversation. Aside from the consult, the consult is almost, I try to always make it in person. We can meet anywhere. It can be a cup of coffee somewhere, Starbucks, or not even anything. Just sit and talk for a moment. I think it's important to get a feel for some things that are going to be in the event. But aside from that, it's almost always just texting. People seem to prefer that. They can respond when they're ready at their time schedule. So don't really push for anything and let things develop out as they should once the initial consult has been taken care of. Yeah.
Good. Very good. And are there anything else that you're doing in addition to that? What about follow-ups? Are you doing that via a phone call, via an email, via automated email? What kind of tools might you use for those?
Well, I also do lifestyle portrait. So like a lot of times after an event, especially like wedding couples, you know, there may be an early newlyweds, you know, something that we may do later on, and we stay in touch. There's a lot of times there's conversation, especially after the photos have been delivered. I like to make sure that everything was good and everything, you know, they were happy. Aside from the initial at the time of delivery, that they go through them and see what they look like. I definitely follow up after that, but I'll also do it down the road. It was a habit I developed previously, and that I've always, a lot of times I even become like friends with them. We're good acquaintances, become Facebook friends, and I see what's going on in their lives. The conversations get deep sometimes, especially when there's, you know, so much gravity in any of those events going on. You hear about things that are upcoming, and, you know, I think it's kind of what we should be doing to, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, I get invited into the personal life of these people, whoever it is. And so I tend to pay attention and keep up and kind of want to know what's going on. And sometimes maybe even surprise them when they talk to me later about something and I happen to know what they're talking about. And they're like, oh, you saw that? And I'm like, yeah, I did actually. And maybe even if I have a question on the spot as a follow-up, I'll throw it out there because I want them to know that we're paying attention, you know?
Yeah.
So that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I don't have that question, but if I can, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I have the next question for you, and it's really just to follow up on this. But before I had asked that, I want to ask you guys watching, is this stuff resonating with you today? Are you hearing some things that are interesting? I want you to do me a favor. Go over to the comments right now and enter in just the word yes. if it's resonating. But I'd actually like for you to go one step further and tell me what it is that's catching your attention. And also, like I said at the beginning, I want you to make sure that you say thank you to the three panelists today for investing their time and caring about you. And all I'm asking in return is that you just say thank you to them. Let them know that they're appreciated. All right. So this next question is really a continuation. Are there some tools or templates that you have found helpful for streamlining your communication with your prospects as they're turning into clients? Now, some people turn into clients very quickly, and others of them, it takes a little nurturing to make it happen. What are you doing to make this process, this transformation happen?
Well, it starts off with the initial inquiry, because there'll be a small little 3-sentence paragraph space where they can kind of throw in with, you know, what their the reason why they're even communicating with us in the first place. And we'll take that and expand as much as possible by asking quite a lot of questions. You know, the who, the how, the where, the why, the you got to identify what's important, what the goals are, things that aren't, I mean, obviously there's goals that are going to be the same thing almost every single time, but I'm talking the more we can find out certain specific goals that they're trying to achieve, things that they really want, things that will make them very happy. We try and make sure to discover those things as early on as possible and identify them, and then try and even expand on that. It's almost always because of the nature of the photography I do. There's always more. There's always more story going on behind what they're initially telling you, and we try to kind of find that, and that communication, I think, really goes a long way with some people, in that they can tell that you're invested, and well, they communicate better because they see somebody cares, you know, in front of them. So that's pretty much how I do that. It's a lot of questions.
Yeah, they do need to know that you care. If they don't sense that,
Mhm.
Unless it's a headshot, I mean,
Right.
with a headshot, it's so quick that we don't necessarily care. But even then, people care. They want to work with people who they feel care about them and want to give them the best, that they're not just after the money.
Right.
And so, you know, it's interesting when I am visiting with a photographer, and you can imagine I probably visit with photographers all the time. But one of the things that they often say is, well, I'm not trying to get rich. Guys, that is not even slightly the correct way to think about this. It's, what do you feel? What do you believe in?
Yeah.
If it happens that you make money with it, great, and you make it part of the plan, great. But average Joe photographer doesn't become rich. There's real estate, you know, investment for that, if that's what your goal is. You do photography out of passion, not out of, you think that you're going to line your walls with money. No,
Right.
you do it because you love this stuff, because you love the people that you work with, because you get to visit with people who you would never have had an opportunity to work with before. That's some of the many things that drives us creatives, us wonderful creative,
Absolutely.
wonderful photographers. And
I
so,
totally agree with
and it's so, thank you for sharing that, Nick. I appreciate it. Do you use a website or a Facebook page or an Instagram? Do you use any of those kind of tools?
Yes, well, of course, on Facebook, I have the business page, and my actual current Facebook started off as a business page for a tattoo shop I work for. My last name isn't really dedicated, and so
What?
it was
Really?
just the name of the shop that I worked for, and they required us to do that, so I did it, and it just kept going, so I just kept it. And
I think it's a
but
memorable
SNL
name, so
Photography
I
is our
like it.
business. It stuck. It stuck, and it's how a lot of people identify me. So it just made sense to keep that. But the business page is SNL Photography, where we post our stuff, and I share it to my personal. And Instagram, of course, same SNL Photography, and we have our website, which is SNL photo210.gallery. And that's actually where most people will use the links from our social media locations, and
Yeah.
go there, take a look at stuff, and then you fill out the form there, and it starts the onboarding process through our CRM. Super easy.
Nice. Thank you, Nick. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Deborah. So let's bring Deborah on. Deborah, all right. What tools are you using? What templates are you using to help you with streamlining your communication with your prospects as they turn into clients?
Well, I I tried several of those. Sorry, the CRM programs, and the last one I tried was Dubstato, and I liked it, but I found that for me, those programs just take too much of my time to set them up. If I could get somebody to, you almost need, for me, an assistant to set them up, and then you can start to work it. But it's that beginning process. So I kind of left that because it was just frustrating me too much, and it made me where I didn't enjoy this business anymore. And there's so many things out there that get thrown at you. Do this. You go to a workshop. Do that. Get this. Get that. And I can tend to go, yeah, the next greatest thing. But I'm at this point now where I want to just scale back and streamline things so that it's better for my mind and better for my passion for my photography. So the good thing is that I use PhotoBiz for my website, and they're getting much better about adding. They've always been good about contracts, and so I send out all my contracts to them. But they're getting much better. They have a calendar, can send reminders to clients. You can now do payment plans through them. I take all my payments through PhotoBiz. So the good thing, as I have maybe developed, they have developed, and so I'm very comfortable with their um, with their um, layout, I guess, is the platform. That's the word I'm trying to use. So I you know will kind of streamline back to PhotoBiz and use their tools, and then the other processes that that I do. I try to again keep it simple for me, but because it works. I have so many other things going on in my life, and better.
That makes sense. We all have a ton of stuff going on, and we do need to streamline things. We do need to make things a little bit easier for us. Of course, we don't want to cut any corners that cause any
No.
problems or make our work any less. But if we can put different tools in motion that cause less time, but the quality remains, I think all of us are open to it. Of us creatives, we there are a handful that don't care about the quality, but for the most part, I think that is something that is almost universal for creatives, is that we really care about our clients. It's interesting when I'm helping someone write their about me for their website. You know, they always include that they care about their clients. And I don't think that they should take it out, but I do want them to consider that that's not a differentiator. And so they need something
Mhm.
more than that. So I think sharing that they care is important. But it's not a
Right.
differentiator between one photographer and another one. And so there's a need to express more than just
Mhm.
the extent to which you care or the extent to which you're passionate about photography. Because why would you
Mhm.
do photography if you didn't have some level of passion for it? And so
Right.
that's just one of the things I recommend when we're doing that part of the process.
Right.
So thank you for sharing those variables. I think another thing that reduces time is that culling process afterwards,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the initial editing process using a product like Filter Pixel to be able to reduce that time because it's AI based. It learns what it is that you do and how you work, it doesn't do it automatic. There's automatic things, but you want to train it on the things that you look for and pay
Mhm.
attention to and the things you care about. And once you've trained it, it's you. Now you're still going to want to check it, but it goes from
Mhm.
hours long to minutes long. And anything that we can do as photographers that cuts our time but doesn't cut the quality, we're open to. So
Mhm. Right.
you agree with all that?
I do. I
Thanks,
do.
Deborah.
Yeah, I
All
do.
right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Erin. So I'm going to bring her on. All right, Erin. I got that same question for you. What tools, what templates are you using? What have you found that makes it helpful for you to streamline your communication process with your prospects as they transition into clients?
Yep. I am not a super stickler with contracts, but I feel like it helps the client fully commit to the process when I use the contract. So as soon as we are done chatting and I get their due date or how old baby is, I will ask for an email address and let them know that I'm going to email them a contract. And then I also email a separate email that is sort of a what to expect from here. So the contract is just going over our business trade legality information together. And it's also giving them the reassurance that, yes, I have your due date saved. I have the dates we've selected saved. And then the second email is much less stuffy, much more fun, more of a, I cannot wait to meet you. I cannot wait to cuddle your baby. These are the things you can expect from your session. This is what's going to happen when you arrive. And these are the things you should bring along with you. And this is what I want to know from you. So once I send both of those, I will follow up within 24 hours. And I just do the typical, I wanted to check in, make sure that you did receive my email and that, all the behind the scenes stuff worked correctly. And if you have any questions, and generally it gets signed pretty quickly. And I get a follow-up email from the can't wait to work with you one. And it goes over, and then that's where they start telling me like the colors they love, the props that they love. And it goes from there. But I feel like just getting that email sent off and then the fun can't wait to work with you email followed right behind it just sort of gets it all taken care of for me.
I like that you've got a solid process, something that you feel strongly about, something that is working for you.
Yeah.
And I can see why it would be working. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
All right. I've got the next question for you. And it's, by the way, you have the order, but I'm going out of order right now. So,
Okay.
During a session, photographers want to create, I'm going to put it up on the screen. During a session, photographers want to create great images. How do you communicate with your subjects to make sure that happens?
So I like behind the scenes communication. Before we even step foot out of our cars or get to our session, some of the first things I like to do is go over the expectations. I want to see their Pinterest ideas of how they want to see themselves. So I do ask, like, do you have a Pinterest board? Do you have poses like in your brain that you've already decided, like, I want to see myself in this pose? So I get a general idea of the styling and the posing before we even get there. So once we get there, I just go back over with the client, like, hey, are we still tracking with everything you sent me through Pinterest? Are we still loving the style of these? And as long as we're good, we just start working through it. And a lot of my clients come to me because they know I'm going to fully pose every part of them. There are great lifestyle photographers, and just looking at my work, I am not a lifestyle photographer. I do a lot of posing, and a lot of my clients seem to really like that. They show up and the first thing they tell me is, I don't know what to do with myself. You have to do everything. And I love that. And they put that faith in me, and I will fully pose them from top to bottom during the entire session. And as we're shooting, I reassure them, or I ask them, hey, is there anything that I haven't done that you sort of pictured in your mind that you wanted to try or that you wanted to do? So I want to make sure that what they've pictured for themselves, I'm going to create and come to life for them.
Perfect. I mean, I hear that a lot as well. They're not sure what they're supposed to do. And so we definitely play a role in that. I've seen a lot of your work, and it's I see a lot of studio, at least style work, where you've got that baby and you've got the wrap and you've got the props, and you've got these things that are very specific that you had to plan ahead of time. Those didn't just happen.
No,
You knew that was going to happen. You had the right tools available to be able to make that happen.
Yes.
So yeah, I can definitely see that. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Nick. So bring Nick back to the front. Here we go. Nick, during a session, photographers obviously want to create great images. So how do you communicate with your subjects to make sure that happens?
Well, for events specifically, a lot of what Aaron just said is absolutely it. Seriously, it's the preparation beforehand. It's getting idea boards together, mood boards. To keep there are a lot of times what's so great about Pinterest or TikTok is that I just get links sent to me. I can go and look at it, and I create a separate file for that particular day, or if it's a shoot for that particular shoot, and then I actually have I'm studying it beforehand and the day of, and then reviewing it and making sure we got different things that we saw in different places that they want, and keeping that fresh and that reminder out there. This is what we're trying to get. This is what we're trying to do. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's and staying on top of it. But yes, a lot of times things are evolving and moving so quickly that it's easy to forget, and that does happen sometimes. But you do your best to keep all of the bases covered and get those photos.
Because you care.
That's right. That's right.
You want to do a good job. You want them to be thrilled, impressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that you do that, and thank you for sharing that with us, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Deborah. So, Deborah, when you're describing or during a session, photographers obviously want to create a fantastic experience, a fantastic photograph. So what are you doing to communicate that to them?
So because I shoot two different genres, weddings and boudoir, they're different. And so for weddings, it's really just, I want to know their style. Many times I'll go visit their venue before, if I can, before the wedding with them and see the areas. I want to know the specifics on who we're going to photograph. And then if they have a specific idea of a shot, I want to know those kind of things so I don't miss that. And then I'll make a timeline for the day, and I'll go over the timeline with them, and they'll go over the timeline again. And I do that for them, but also for myself, to be sure that I keep track of what they want, and we stay on time. And many times especially if they don't have a wedding coordinator, I have to act as such. So then I have to put on that hat. And so, which is fine. I can have a loud voice, so I can boss people around, but you almost have to sort of take charge sometimes. But then I try to get everybody together and look for the best shots for the wedding couple and for the wedding party and whatnot. But it kind of happens organically, because at that point there's a certain point where you're just along for the ride. The boudoir is completely different, because with boudoir I've had a lot of prep, and we've talked about wardrobe, we've talked about the look. Typically we'll do 2 or 3 outfits, and it happens a lot slower. It's more of a one-on-one. And then when by this time they've come into the studio and I know what wardrobe we're going to use, and I'll lay the wardrobe out again, and we'll talk about how we're going to craft the session. Okay, we're going to do this. I usually get them in the hardest outfit first, because then, especially if they have like garter belts and things like that, it's something that takes a lot of time to get in, or corset, get them in the hardest, and then then we go from there, and then the easiest, and usually a more casual outfit in the end. And so, and by that time, again, I've still had my process with the outfits, and that kind of leads the session, and then that leads the posing, and that leads the lighting, and that leads the look of, if they have something, if they're wearing all black, really sort of aggressive looking outfit, I don't want to do light and airy. That's very dramatic. If it's bridal boudoir, which I love, that's very light and airy and innocent. So that will kind of lead to that. And then, did I answer your question?
Yes. That is
Okay.
perfect. Yeah, so and it is different between
Yeah,
those 2, and
yeah.
those 2 can go pretty well together, weddings and
Very
more.
oh, yeah. Oh,
So and because that's the bride may want both things,
yes.
and that is something that's become more popular over the last couple decades, whereas
Mhm,
before you didn't see that very often,
mhm.
really, occasionally, but now it's
Yeah,
pretty normal. I wouldn't say that everybody does it. It's not that
no.
normal, but still, it's something that it's not unusual any longer. It's kind of in that norm
You're talking
range.
about the bridal boudoir?
Uh-huh.
I love
Yeah.
it, and a lot of them, yeah, they do it, and, they do it for a lot of reasons, but it's great, and, they always get an album, so
Tell me about how you communicate with people during a wedding. Let's say that cousin Ed
yeah.
and Aunt Shirley are trying to photograph the same thing you're photographing, maybe the formal photographs that are done
Yeah,
either before or after the ceremony. How do you communicate with them?
it's very frustrating, and there's always gonna be somebody that wants to take that photo that you've worked so hard to stage and set up and get everybody together, and it's really sometimes like herding cats, and if I don't and a lot of times I'll lose my voice, because I'm trying to get because I'm trying to talk to these people, but I tell them ahead of time, I'm like, listen, I try to find somebody ahead of time, say, I need your help to round everybody up, because and after the ceremony particularly, I ask them to stay where they are. Don't go off and get a drink. Stay where you are. Get everybody safe. But what I tell people is that I just kindly ask them if they want to take the photo, just wait for me. So and if they don't do it, then I'll just step in front of them and I'll take it. Sorry, I'm paid. And I'm sorry, but I mean,
I
it
mean,
just
that's the truth. It's the
yeah,
truth that you're being paid to do that. Your client
it's
is
my
the
job.
bride for the
Yeah,
most part. They're expecting you to get those photographs, and so
yeah.
you handle it like I handled it.
I'll just
I haven't been doing weddings since I
yeah.
stopped marketing them in 2013. But one of the things that I would tell them during those formals, the people who
Mhm.
also want to do photographs,
Yeah,
it's something similar to what you're telling them.
yeah,
I would say, all right, I'm going to get everything set up. I'm going to
yes,
get my photograph. And as soon as my flash goes off, then I
yes,
want you to do yours. That way
yes.
I make sure that everybody's looking because I have a couple of reasons. I don't want their flash to go off while mine is because it
No.
messes up my lighting, but it
Mhm.
also causes confusion when all the people who are standing up there don't know which camera they're supposed to
Who
look
to
at.
look at.
So you've got
Yeah,
someone looking over there,
yeah,
another person looking over there, another person looking over there, and that doesn't
yeah.
work. And so I
No.
tell them ahead of time, I want everyone for this photograph to be looking at this camera. And then as
Yeah,
soon as I'm done, then I want you to do yours. And I'll just set up for the next one while you're doing it because it only takes them like 2, 3 seconds to get their photograph done. And I'll say those words to them. And it's since I started doing that, I never had a
yeah,
problem. But before I said that, it was more frustrating for me. I don't know that it ever actually caused much of a problem
yeah,
other than the eyes, and that to me is a big
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
But the lighting, it almost never happened. I saw it 2 or 3 times where their
yeah,
flashes went off at the same exact time as mine before
yeah.
I
That
started
doesn't.
telling them this.
Yeah, and I think that you just have to set. You have to set up. I talk a lot about energy. It's wedding photography, particularly, or any photography, but it's not for the meet. I think, or at least for wedding, you have to set. You can't just sit back and be a wallflower. You're kind of sort of part of the action ish. You're not part of the wedding, but you've got to. I feel that especially when you have somebody that wants to jump in and take those photos. So I tend to command that respect pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
so very rarely do I have anybody challenge that. Not to say it hasn't
Good.
happened, but yeah.
Uh, by the way, I put up a comment just a moment ago from Sonia Signs, and I
Yeah.
appreciate her saying that. All right, so Deborah, I've got
Yeah.
the last question
Okay.
for you, and it's actually not a question. It is I want you to give your closing thoughts about today, about the questions that we've been talking about so far. Just give an overview, what you want to leave the viewers with this evening.
I think that thanks everybody for coming and watching. I have I think for me, I'm still evolving. I am still learning. I still am trying to figure out what works for me, what is not working for me. So if you talk to me next year, I may have a completely different opinion, but I think that's part of evolving. And uh, I I think that nobody does it wrong. Everybody has their own way that's comfortable for them, and I tend to be a little bit less. I won't say maybe I am more structured than I think I am, but I don't. I try to rely on things that I know, and then this way I can be successful. So it's been really interesting, and I hope that something I said helped. So thanks.
I'm sure there's a ton of
Yeah,
things that are helping. I know I like hearing
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you individually for giving of yourself and caring enough about other photographers that you'd be willing to come on. For most of us photographers, doing this kind of thing that you're doing right now is a little scary. And so maybe making it may or may not, I don't know, make you nervous. I don't see that in you,
Oh,
but sometimes the things that are inside of us aren't necessarily
yeah.
showing, and sometimes the things we think aren't showing are showing. So there's that too. But I
Well,
just want to thank you for coming on.
you're welcome. I love this business, and I love photographers, and I love to talk about photography, and I love to teach, and I love to give back to the community. And any way that I can, if I can help somebody, then at least if it's one person, then I've done my job.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Deborah.
Yeah. Thanks,
Uh,
Jim. Thanks for having me.
of course. I'm going to bring on Erin next to give her closing thoughts. So let's bring on Erin. Erin,
Yes.
do you have any closing thoughts for this evening?
Um, just want to tell everybody, if you're starting out or if you're deep in it, I think the greatest thing that kept my business alive and thriving is just treating my clients like family. A lot of times the way they're treated and the outcome of their images should be as equally important. And I want my clients to feel like they're hanging out with a best friend during a session and they can openly communicate what they want and not shy away. And just communication and treating them incredible and then giving them good images is the best part you can do.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Man, I'm thrilled that you were able to make some time to be here. I know you are a busy person with business, with family, and all the other things that go on in your life. And so, thank you for making the time for this. Thank you for caring enough to be able to be on the Portrait Profit Show. And thank you for your willingness to help out the photographer community.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. So glad you're here. All right. I'm going to bring on Nick to share his closing thoughts. All right, Nick, tell us about how you're the last one to speak of the panelists. So you have the floor. Tell us your closing thoughts. What do you want us to leave with today?
Well, first, thank you for having me on here tonight. It's been great. The questions gave me a lot to consider and think about because you're going and you're in the business and you're doing the things that need to be done, and you sometimes, even if you have a process, sometimes you might not stop to consider every step and everything you're going through with your process until you do, right? And then you start discovering things, seeing patterns, and I felt like, and I think this is a thing for event photographers in general, no matter what kind of events you cover or all of them. I felt like a lot of my answers kind of rotated and were a little vague at some points, and that's just it. Though, is in event photography, I don't think you can try and nail down a process as quickly as you can, and you just can't always. You don't know what's going to happen in an event, and there's a lot of surprises sometimes. But I was happy to be able to share whatever my experiences have been up to now, and actually, it seemed like somebody wanted to listen to it. So I'm thankful for that, and I learned a lot actually too, just listening to other photographers talk about their experiences, and it's the same things, and your exchange with Deborah was really funny to me, because some of the things she's talking about that happen in events, in weddings, having to be the coordinator and whatever. But it's at the same time, it's so great and so wonderful to be a part of all that. And it's crazy in the moment, but later on thinking back on it, it's like, wow, I made memories that day too. Like, it wasn't just them. It was fantastic. And it's a great celebration. So I'm very.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Nick. I think it looks like on my end that it froze, but I think I heard what you needed to say, and oh, there we go. It's not frozen anymore. Thank you so much for sharing, for bringing your 2 decades of tattoo business experience also, because we all have different backgrounds, and there's different reasons why we do the things that we do, and reasons why we care, the methods, the steps that we take. There are reasons for those, and we can't possibly know them unless you're willing to share. And so thank you for that willingness to share with the greater photographer community. And thank you for sacrificing your time. I know there's something else that you hadn't, that would be going on right now if you weren't here with us. So thank you for that gift of time and sharing your experiences.
Of course, happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm going to bring you and the other 2 back on here in just a moment. So I'm going to take you off right now, but I wanted to address you guys. Do me a favor, over in the comments, say thank you. Tell them that you appreciate them sacrificing whatever it is that they had planned for this evening and coming to share their thoughts, their opinions, their experience with you this evening. Do me a favor, over in the comments, just say thank you. And also click that like button, click that love button. They're going to see those messages, and I want them to know that they're appreciated. And I bet you do too. So I'm going to bring them back on one last time to say thank you. So let's bring on Deborah and Aaron and Nick. You guys rock. Thank you so much for being on the Portrait Profit Show this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Jim. Thank you. It was great.
Of
Thank
course. You guys are awesome. I'm so thrilled that you were able to make time to do this. Thank you for all that you're doing for the photography community. Thank you for what you're doing as far as for yourself, caring about what you do, uplifting all photographers just by doing a great job, because that perception that someone has, those clients have, when they see you and work with you and they get these good responses and these beautiful photographs, that uplifts all of us, as opposed to the opposite, when they come across photographers that aren't quite doing as the same thing you're doing. You're helping to elevate photographers as a whole. So continue doing what you're doing. You rock. I appreciate you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right, man. Aren't those guys awesome? I love it. All right. So I've got a couple of announcements. As you know, that the Portrait Profit Show is every single Monday. It's just on the second Monday we move it from noon to 6:30 in the evening so that we can accommodate the schedules of our panelists. But all the rest of the time, it's at noon on Mondays, every Monday, and we don't miss. So a couple of announcements first before I get to the next two. Show titles. I've got 2 announcements. One is I want you to be aware and make plans to be at the annual San Antonio Photography Tournament on October 22nd. That's a Sunday, and it's at Confluence Park. You probably recognize that photograph on this graphic. But this is the 11th annual San Antonio Photography Tournament. It is a diversion type of tournament. It's fun. It's not meant to determine who's the best photographer in San Antonio. It's meant for photographers to get together, to have some fun together. There's going to be tons of prizes. In fact, somewhere between, in the past, we've had over $20,000 worth of prizes to give out. So, hey, come for that. But go to, and let me see if I have that. Yeah, I do. I'm going to copy and paste the address so you can go to that. Copy, and then I'm going to go to the comments section and put that in there, and hopefully you'll be able to see that in the comments here in just a second. All right, so the annual San Antonio Photography Tournament. The link you should see there, it says photofun.eventbrite.com. So that's where you get more information on the photo tournament coming on October 22nd. So about 6 weeks away. I hope to see you there for that. Also, the San Antonio Photography Facebook group and Photo Essay Camera Clubs meet once a month. And this particular time, our subject is going to be put down on the screen right now, the essence of motion and power in motorsport and automotive photography. And this is by guest speaker Jonathan Garino. And so he's going to be sharing his experience and the tools that he used to photograph cars and other motored sports. And that is this Thursday, September 14th. And you will see that posted on the San Antonio Photography page, and you'll see that on the Photo Essay group page. So San Antonio Photography Facebook group, and it's San Antonio Photography. Don't add the word group to it. It is a group, but it's San Antonio Photography. There is another group called San Antonio Photography Group, and they're not even from here. So it's just San Antonio Photography. So that is for locals. I know some of you are watching from all over the place, but the tournament is for those who either want to fly in or are already here. Same thing with this monthly meetup that we do. So go and plan to be there for that, and go and get more information on the Photo Essay or San Antonio Photography Facebook group. All right. So the next two sessions, so that'll round out September, and I'll put the first one here, and I'll bring up the graphic. So on September 18th at noon is the next Portrait Profit show, and this is to be interesting, be interested. And I've got an interesting story that I'm going to share with you at the beginning of this presentation, but here's the philosophy: curiosity shared is the most interesting trait that you can cultivate. Communication comes in many different forms. So in this episode, we'll captivate and motivate your clients to want to move forward now. And next week, the week after, on September 18th, activating your awesomeness. And so in that one, I'll bring that up. That one, the time is now to stop just going through the motions and instead channel your passion, tap into your creativity, and run your life, your photography business with purpose and with intention. I guarantee you'll walk away from this show with a spark of inspiration and clear steps to shift your direction, and you'll start living life as your best self. So put these on your calendar, both the one for next week at noon, September 18th, to be interesting, be interested, and this one 2 weeks from now, also at noon, called Activating Your Awareness. Put it on your calendar. I want to see you there. All right. Our fantastic panel of experts, and I hope that you've taken a moment to hit the like and love button and make a comment saying, thank you guys, I enjoyed this. Whatever it is you feel is appropriate, take a moment in the comment section to let our panelists know they're appreciated. Our fantastic panel of experts has shared their wealth of knowledge and experience, leaving us with lots of valuable insights and practical steps that we can use. We hope this evening's discussions have inspired and empowered you. As you apply the tips that have been shared by our panelists, I hope the journey towards your definition of success is filled with creativity, fulfillment, and prosperity. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep capturing those beautiful moments. Thank you for dedicating your time and sacrificing other important things in your life to grow more on the business side of photography, to become better. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to watching you grow. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, my name is Jim Landers, and I'm bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show with evolving content, awareness, and even fun as we unpack the mysteries of the business side of photography. We do that with tips, with insights that help you with the struggles you are dealing with now, so you are constantly realigned to the path that leads to the success you deserve. Thank you for investing your time and watching the monthly Portrait Profit Show. I appreciate you guys being here to watch today's episode of how I communicate with clients, and I hope to see you on the next Portrait Prophet Show. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye for now.